let's start with the quarterback spot, particularly Trey Lance. What was your impression of how they're managing his development in that first preseason game?
I did not take it that they were managing it much at all. I felt it was a very much throwing him into the fire, throwing him to the wolves. And while that sounds very, very masculine and manly on the surface, as far as like let's test him out, let's see how he does, let's make him tough. That's not what you do with your assets. And that's the thing. It's like when you have an asset, I feel like you should surround him with the key cogs that are part of your asset package. It's not just Trey Lance. We know that. It's not just the quarterback that matters. It's the team. The O-line in particular, they did not roll out the best protection for him, and it showed.
Absolutely. It's funny. It's like, what did you want to do? Did you want to set him up for success? That's what the Bears did with Justin Fields. Everyone says
Yes.
Justin Fields looked good because they set him up for success. They put him in all the situations where he looks good, rolling out of the pocket, throwing on the run. He's good at that. The Niners took the other approach. They're like, now we know you're good at that. We want you in the pocket, working on your weakness behind a terrible second-string offensive line, throwing to wide receivers who can't catch your passes. Make it work. And if you get sacked 4 times, that's football.
Yeah, and that's not something I want to see,
No.
especially Chris Jones welcomed him to the NFL. Remember, I said he would. I said last show that he would do that. It would be Andy Reid and someone like Chris Jones or Frank Clark. Obviously, that's another discussion, but definitely Chris Jones did exactly what I thought he would do. That one didn't bother me so much. I kind of like the fact he faced him, but not with what he was equipped with. It's very strange to me that they would roll out Trey Lance and not give him a full showing. If he's going to face a potential Super Bowl contender, definite Super Bowl contender, as far as like they might face these guys in the Super Bowl, I feel like they should have at least given him the weapons. Now, that drop by Ayuk was just head-scratching. I mean, he put it right there.
Mm-hmm.
It could not have been better. There was a little bit of zip on it, but they have to get used to that. Zip means it's harder to intercept as well. It might be harder to catch, but it's harder to intercept. It gets to the target very quickly. Mm-hmm. So that one didn't really concern me as far as Lance, but I think I'm not sure. But just looking at the look on his face, he was very poised as far as his reaction to Ayuk. But when he went back in the huddle, he looked a bit blank.
Yeah.
And I think he was like, I think he kind of shrugged it off. I think he said, okay, there's a drop. But after that, there was a little bit more of that. He started gunslinging the ball.
Yeah.
There was a point at which I felt it was like post-apocalyptic Kaepernick phase, the way he began to throw the ball. And there were 3 drops. 2 of those we have to give back to Lance. So his completions would have been a little bit higher. But what it showed, I feel like what it showed so far is that the team didn't give him who he needed as far as protection, but he did have the backs and he did have a couple of his receivers at one point. And I feel like, with the exception of Charlie Warner, I feel like the tight ends around him did do their job. There was some good blocking, something that you brought up with me, of course, on his deep pass, which was that second attempt that he made, which was beautiful. But there were 2 busted coverage assignments in that throw as well. So Sherfield burns the corner, who takes the wrong angle. He doesn't get his hips rotated in time. And I don't know what the safety was doing. And he was playing zone coverage, but he takes a direct route, a horizontal route, as the safety. And you're not supposed to do that. So basically, he runs in a straight line directly at the ball to perpendicularly intersect it when you're supposed to run with the pass to try to basically get in the receiver's face. So that play, if it had been covered correctly, would never have happened.
You know, what's interesting about what the Niners did, you mentioned early on, they threw him into the fire. They're mentoring a 21-year-old quarterback who's raw. And it seems like, I was talking to my dad yesterday, he used the phrase, when you're mentoring anyone, 90% of it is psychological hand-holding. You understand? You know what I mean? Like, you're good. We're going to get there. I believe in you. As opposed to, you think you're good? Let me prove you wrong. Let me throw you to the wolves and show you how not ready you are. And it seems like like Bill Walsh, for example, he went slow with his quarterbacks, but he always did a lot of psychological hand-holding and set them up for success. When they put Joe Montana in the game early on in his career, it was in positions where he would succeed, where he was playing to his strengths, not where he would look freaking like a fish out of water. And that's what I felt like Shanahan did with Trey. I understand working on your weaknesses. You do that in practice. When you put him out there in front of the fans, you want to create confidence in the fan base, in the team, in the player, in himself. And I feel like that was hard to accomplish when he was running for his life 90% of the time.
Absolutely. And I think Kyle Shanahan, he struggles on the leadership aspect of things. And you're not the only analyst that took that response. I listened to Stephen A., the Rich Eisen show. Everyone noticed that Kyle Shanahan exhibited essentially poor leadership when it came to the management of the emotions of Trey Lance. And it doesn't matter what theater you're in, whether it's military or sports or the civilian sector, private sector, whatever. You don't just set people up for failure. You can see what they do under fire. That's completely different.
Yes.
For instance, Kyle Shanahan could have thrown some really complicated schemes at him, called up some really difficult plays, put him on the run, made him throw on the run, made him throw outside, that sort of thing. That's how you test Trey Lance. You don't test him by saying, let me give you worse offensive linemen against Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Because I know you'll get hit.
Right. And it's like, look, I understand, Kyle. Like, I wouldn't have done it that way. I would have done it how Matt Nagy did it, but you did it your way. After the second sack, make an adjustment, dude. It's a preseason game. Even if it was a regular season game, you can't let him take those hits. And they are avoidable by design. Get him out of the pocket. Get the ball out of his hand. Run the ball. All kind of things you can do to avoid those hits. And that's why I was asking the question after the game, like, why did you let that happen? Why didn't you? You're such a good play caller. By design, you can avoid these things. And his answer was, that's what we wanted to do. It's like, man, I don't think that's what you wanted to do. And you're lucky. There were other hits he took that weren't sacks. He got crunched when he was outside the pocket. Lucky he didn't get a concussion or something worse. That's all I wanted to say. Don't let that happen again.
Trey Lance is a really tough guy, but that does not excuse getting him hit. And if you watch his body language after his hits, after he got hit by Chris Jones, he took one more pretty big sack. But after that, he began diving for the ground.
He did.
He began rolling up like Peyton Manning, basically. And that's I was happy with, as far as like, I don't want him to Jimmy Garoppolo with it, where he runs to the outside. He's like, oh, I'm going to take one more guy on and blows his knee out. But so I like to see him get down and dirty the way Frank Gore was so good at doing. But at the same time, getting under things with the way he was crumpled. And there's a difference. He wasn't avoiding he was purely avoiding the hits. He wasn't just taking the sack. And at a certain point, I feel like he was expecting hits and expecting pressure. So that's not good. Absolutely not. If you look over at the way Mac Jones was coached, that he was set up for more success, and he's a lesser. Basically, Trey Lance is Mac Jones plus a body, and maybe even a sharper mind.
Yeah.
So there's no way that Trey Lance should not be able to get away. I feel like he was told to stay in the pockets, but also there were times where I feel like he did look to the outside to get away, but the O-line, they were pushed backwards. The only reason that it looked like there was some protection is because they were getting pushed back into the pocket. And that's what the Chiefs are really good at, is collapsing the pockets and taking the quarterback down perpendicularly. And that's exactly what they did.
Absolutely. So Kyle, do better. Better. Because again, I know I've seen what the offense looks like with Trey Lance. You've done a very good job creating something that accentuates all of his strengths. You can show some of it without revealing all your secrets, and you can keep him healthy and create some confidence in him, in the team, in him, and in the fan base. That's good. That's all good stuff. Unless you really don't want him to play this year. And I wouldn't understand that.
No, and even if you don't want him to play this year, you still want him to develop. One of my favorite analysts is Mark Schlereth, who made the point that this is a quarterback that's tooled to throw on the run. So that sounds great as a fan, like, oh, I want to see him throw on the run, and I want to see him drag defenders. That's not why you throw on the run. You throw on the run because of the running game. Because of what it opens up over the middle of the field and what it does to the defensive package for the next play. That's what this mobile quarterback who can throw. I actually flat out will say he's a much better passer, I feel, and will be better than Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying he's a better runner, but he brings a little bit of that Lamar Jackson running. He's tougher physically. I think he's tougher than Lamar Jackson. I didn't see Lamar Jackson run over people the way that Trey Lance does on the goal line in college. I think Trey Lance is beefier. But what he does is he has a little bit more touch when he's not running for his life. So if it's a designed rollout pass, I think that's where he will thrive. And again, it's like Kaepernick fell apart on his own 2 feet. Like certain things he did not do well at the end of his career, but he was also miscalled and mismanaged. That's exactly what we saw was the end of Kaepernick's career in this game as far as the play calling and the management of his physical assets.
One more thing I want to say before we move on. You said Schlereth said he's a natural thrower on the run. He is. And let me say what that means. When he's in the pocket, he is not a natural thrower. He's working on his mechanics. His mechanics come and go. He's young. All of his inexperience comes out. But when he's throwing on the run, he's an athlete. He's not thinking about it. He can do it in his sleep. It's like a basketball player who's just a little bit more natural shooting off the dribble than catching and shooting. You know what he's really comfortable rolling. Like yesterday, he rolled to the right in practice on the run and got all the way outside the numbers, threw the ball as hard as he could while sprinting to his right and hit Richie James Jr. 20 yards down the field on the sideline in the chest, and Richie James Jr. dropped it, of course. But it was like, it's a gorgeous throw, and he can hit that 9 times out of 10. When he's in the pocket, it's just more of a learned, practiced motion. When he's rolling, it's natural. That's all I want to say. And that's why another reason why the Niners have to give this guy as many opportunities as possible to throw in the run. I think Carson Wentz is the exact same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carson Wentz is a pretty good runner, too. He's hard to bring down at the second level. The other thing is, too, this is a new toy that Shanahan has. And what we saw yesterday was pole vaulting with a broomstick, the plays that were called. It's just not what you wanted to see with Trey Lance. They have to give him the opportunity to use his athleticism correctly.
Absolutely. I mean, if they're going to start Jimmy Garoppolo, they at least need to give Trey Lance an opportunity to show something without having 3 arms tied behind his back.
And the Garoppolo plays were called perfectly for Garoppolo.
Yes.
They were the short passes, barely past the line of scrimmage style. He went 3 for 3, which, cool.
Looks great.
It doesn't disappoint me. It doesn't impress me. It was just like, okay, good. Run-of-the-mill offense could move the ball. And if it hadn't been for Charlie Warner, then they would have probably – I felt like they had a head of steam on that drive. Yeah. But regardless, I mean, that was just classic Garoppolo. There was nothing new, nothing bad.
And look, again, the Niners were working hard to make him look good, and they did a lot of psychological hand-holding, none for Trey Lance. So
yeah, they kept him in the pocket while dialing up deep plays.
That's right. James Foster says Jimmy did fine with a makeshift offensive line yesterday in practice because he gets rid of the ball quick. Lance is not there yet, which is why Jimmy will start. A couple of things, real quick. You weren't there. He threw a pick yesterday. It was his 8th pick of camp. So did he do fine? Also, he played with Mike McGlinchey, Laken Tomlinson, Alex Mack, Daniel Brunskill. If Jimmy Garoppolo were playing in this game against the Chiefs with this second-team offensive line, he might – and he had taken those 4 hits, those 4 sacks that Trey Lance would have taken, he might have gotten hurt.
Yeah. Chris Jones would have gotten it more than once, that's for certain. And the other thing is he's not as physically big and strong as Trey Lance. So Trey Lance is harder to take down, and yet they took him down with what looked like most of the time. And I can get it from James Foster's perspective when it looks so bad. I mean, basically what Shanahan showed us yesterday is that Trey Lance is not ready. Now that's not true. I don't necessarily believe that's true, but it's almost like that's what they wanted us to see.
Right. He's not ready to be a pocket quarterback, but I know based on what they've shown in practice and how every team uses these young quarterbacks is he's not going to be a pocket quarterback. He'll throw from the pocket enough, but there's going to be zone reads, there's going to be rollouts, there's going to be improv, and that's why he's going to be the starter. That and the fact that he doesn't throw a million picks.
Yeah, the Titans and the Ravens game last year, where they kept Jackson more in the pocket by design of the defense, but also the play calling, nearly lost the Ravens the game. And finally, Jackson, in his own mind, I feel like he was like, enough. And he just took off for 52 yards or something like that. And that's what won the game, because he finally returned to his route. And that's kind of like what Trey Lance should be allowed to do. It's you have to adjust your play scheme. And that's why Trey Lance looked so bad, is because of the O-line, the play calls, and those drops on a rookie quarterback, that did not help.
Any quarterback who's playing behind a second-string offensive line, playing with second-string wide receivers, and forced to stay in the pocket is going to look bad unless they're a great quarterback. A great quarterback. That's really hard to do. Pocket passing is really good, and if the Niners wanted the best pocket passer, they would have drafted Mac Jones. But they didn't, because offense is evolving, and the pocket is not necessarily the most advantageous place to throw a football. I think it's better to be on the perimeter because no disguises in the coverage, less pass rush. And if people aren't open, you have clear running lanes. That's just how I feel.
Clear running lanes, and that's the thing. If you look at the Ravens, the 49ers have a good chance of, because it's always them and then us, as far as like 30 yards from
Correct.
Rushing yards.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson is just a freak of nature. He's amazing. He's a great runner. But the point is the 49ers would be able to recoup some of that gap in yards just by opening up Raheem Mostert and Garman and Sermon and Mitchell because of the element. of Trey Lance, which was not featured yesterday. I think this is actually one of the most important things. It's not the passing game. It's how much better the run game can be if the passing game reflects the run game. That's what Trey Lance does. It's not that he's going to just light us up like I don't know, John Elway or Peyton Manning in yards. It's that he's going to murder the defense's confidence when it comes to the run game, and he's going to open up different play calls for Shanahan. Shanahan's got to play with this. This is exactly the kind of quarterback he needs. And yet he's not doing it yet. Now, maybe Shanahan
is in practice. I just
cards
don't
to the
understand.
chest. I don't know.
He's doing it in practice. It exists. If they weren't installing a Trey Lance specific offense, I'd be losing my mind right now, and I'd be talking about it. But they did. They have. I like it. It's good. Just show some of it. Let him have a good outing. The way that the Bears let Justin Fields have a good outing.
I honestly, if he had like a really good outing with a good O-line on the first series, I would have considered taking him out after one or two series, just because you know what, this is a team that doesn't need any more study on him, and it's a team that, first off, there seems like there's amnesty between these two teams, and there is. That's the nature of sports, but they don't have good intentions to each other on the field. No. So that could have been managed differently. Better, more elite offense underneath him. Take him out after one or two series, game over.
That was a good opportunity for the Chiefs to tee off on the Niners franchise quarterback. Seth says,
and
it's not like the Chiefs gave the Niners that opportunity with Patrick Mahomes. Anyway.
Yeah, he had a miserable series. There's no other way to put it. They contained him like it was nothing. And you know what? Andy Reid did not call any plays that put him at risk.
Right.
Very conservative game plan. I think, honestly, what it was, hey, do you want to go out there today? Do you want to put your helmet on? Yeah, coach, I'd like to put my helmet on. Okay, cool. And I'll call you 3 lousy plays where they can't hit you.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. That's all it was. Seth says Chiefs were scared of Trey. You know that, Grant. I don't know. Trey might have been scared of them Chiefs, man. They were beating him up. I felt bad.
I love trash talking, especially as a safety, and I did a lot of that, but Chris Jones gets the last word. I hate that, but it's true. He's over there. If he reads this comment, he's just going to laugh.
Yeah. Jeremy says, Subway to Grant, you should do a show grading the rookie quarterback class to give fans an idea where we stand with our pick. Simply, did you play high school football?
Yes, Cairo American College over in Egypt. But I honestly feel like it was more competitive at the intermediate level when I was playing in Washington State.